This episode has been brought to you by Fremont Bank. Fremont Bank has been serving people and businesses in our community for over 60 years. For more information about the Fremont Bank, check out episode 104 on the Fremont Podcast. This episode has also been brought to you by Minutemen Press. If you are looking for design or printing needs, reach out to them. Let them know you heard about them on the Fremont Podcast. They'll give you 20% off on your first order. Banter Bookshop is your local go-to for all your reading resources. If they don't have it on the shelf, you can ask them and they can order it for you. Check them out on Capitol Avenue. Let them know that you heard about them on the Fremont Podcast. If you are looking to buy or sell a home, check out Petrocelli Homes on Niles Boulevard. Finally, if you haven't checked it out already, you should visit the Ohlone College Flea Market, which takes place on the second Saturday of every month. This month, it takes place on April 13th. They are always adding new vendors and new entertainment. You don't want to miss it. We also want to give a big shout out to Niles Farmers Market. Congratulations on 1 year of being here in this community. Thank you for helping make Niles a better place.
I want to make sure that the experience that the spectators have and the students and the coaches all are as high of a level as we can, right? So even coming in and going through the ticket booth, if you will, and finding your seat, and if there's some food available, where's the restrooms, and just the experience, I want to make sure that our fans, they have and leave with a good experience. The talent that we see ebbs and flows, as you would imagine, right? Some years we're going to have just some amazing pitching, like, wow, where'd these people come from? Wow. And then some years, like, hopefully we can throw it over the plate, right? But that's just the dynamics of community college, athletics in general.
Sure. Coming to you straight from Fremont, California, this is the Fremont Podcast, dedicated to telling the stories of the past and present of the people and places of the city of Fremont, one conversation at a time.
I'd like to know when they get there, when they leave, and get some pictures.
So, hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
How was the walk?
Just from around the corner.
Okay. Oh, you took the.
I just parked over there because it's easier than.
That's good. Yeah.
Searching here.
That's right. Well, she had to park down the way a little ways.
Yeah. You got lucky. That's great. That's fantastic.
Very good. Yeah, I had some trees trimmed. So this tree's coming out back here, over here. And there's a tree in the back that's coming out. This one, apparently, the roots are growing up underneath my neighbor's front porch.
Huh.
And so they're pulling that out. But then my neighbor also was concerned about the overgrowth in my backyard. I told my landlord that, I kind of like it because I feels a little
covered,
tucked in a little bit. But, he was like, he was fine either way. But then he just we just need to take care of it, especially for the neighbor. So. Anyway.
Do you want us to shoot off?
It doesn't matter, honestly. We started doing that once we got this new rug, but it's not.
What are some? Well, I want to make sure that we figure out like what things look like between now and the end of the season, and when we think the season might end, and who we need to get in between now and the end of the season. And then what that all is going to look like. I'm not even really sure that I have all the answers to all those things, but I want to figure out collectively what I feel like in order to get like even rolling on August. It would just we could still schedule. We're going to need to still schedule interviews to be ready to go in August.
We'll stay in touch on that, but then at least now we're bumping up. Last episode is June 14th, so we can move towards that date and then record, like you're saying,
and then basically just take it to the when we've taken it to the end of the year. Mm-hmm. So season 4 being all the way to the end of the year. Appreciate it. Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting us over.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look at all that.
Wow. Yikes.
Forest. There's just a wide open hole right now. Wow. Okay.
Have fun with that.
Thanks.
All right, have a good one. You are listening to episode 115 of the Fremont Podcast.
Now, here's your host, Ricky B.
You said you get up early in the morning sometimes and you see the moon rise or the moon set, I guess. Moon set. How often do you normally get here in the morning?
My philosophy is to get here first.
Okay. Okay.
Campus opens at 6. I'm usually here by 6:05,
Wow.
6:10, 6:30 latest.
Okay.
Allows me to kind of just check in, get a workout in if I can.
Okay.
And if not, just get ready and then have some quiet time before the campus starts to wake up.
That's great.
Right. Yeah.
That's
So
great.
if it's daylight savings or if it's wintertime, I always tend to see a great view coming off that
That's
parking
awesome.
structure. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
So.
Do you have other like official responsibilities in the morning that I know you said you had workout, quiet time. Do you have any other responsibilities that you have to see to, or when is your first responsibility usually
good
take
question.
place? Yeah.
That's a good question. It changes. It can't change anyway.
Yeah.
But as you know, my title is not just, as you know, athletic director. It's the Dean of Kinesiology, Athletics, and Performing Arts. So one of my first things is to check in to see what's happening across the division.
Okay.
And that's usually just email. We do a lot of email work here. So I'll see, what's happening over in the fine arts or performing arts, what's up with the music. I also oversee esports. I'm kind of checking in on them to see what's going on. And then just basically open up the building for athletics to see how it's looking.
Okay.
We also have a swim program for the community that's not really run through me, but it's our pool. So make sure the lifeguards are checked in and everybody's and that's 7 a.m. So I try and be at my desk fully awake and aware by 7 just so I can catch all that. And so, and then I'm usually here until about 5:30, maybe 6 every day. That's just how it works. Yeah.
That's great. Well, that's a long
it's
day.
a lot. It's a lot. Yeah.
Well, let's get officially started here then.
Sure.
So I'm with Chris Warden, and I'm going to have you say your title because I feel like you have a bunch of responsibilities. You're the dean of like a handful of things, or close to a handful of things.
Yeah.
So Chris Warden, what's your title? What do you do here at Ohlone College?
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
So Dean of Kinesiology, Athletics, and Performing Arts. So the Performing Arts piece covers our music program department, our theater program, our dance program, which are all in the same area. Also oversees the broadcasting, which includes radio and television. So I was just I had some television work yesterday just to see how it's going. And then kind of the cherry on top is esports.
Wow.
I also oversee that one. So it's a pretty fun little dynamic on that side. And then the kinesiology, athletics, physical education, health.
Okay.
So all the nutrition classes, fall under me as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I mean, it's a lot to say, and just to actually do it, I think there's a lot as well.
Yeah, it's a little unique as far as the position goes with athletics. Athletic director, which also, that's me as well, is typically full-time somewhere.
Okay.
So it'll be a full-time AD.
And if I understand, that was what you were originally hired for here at the college. Is that correct?
No, close.
Close.
So
Okay.
the original hire back in 2001 was athletic trainer.
Okay.
So I was the head of all medical for athletes. I would do the evaluation, injury prevention, management of injuries, rehab of all injuries, and then return to play. So that was my field of study for undergrad and grad.
Okay.
Got the job in 2001, and then about 7 years into it, our athletic director retired.
Okay.
And so they asked me, hey, would you want to be interim? Step into AD position. There'll be a dean who you report to, for academic side. Sure. So I did that for a couple of years, and then they said, hey, we want you to stay on. Are you willing to just move over to the dark side, they call it, which is the administration. So when that move happened, and I think it was officially in 2008, then I became full administration, which included dean-esque duties, but still had the director title.
Okay.
And then I tell you, from that point to this point, I probably had 7 different titles, I think, throughout the time. So they call it reorgs or just reallocations. That happens often, I think, within the higher education. So maybe there'll be some retirements, and then we kind of reallocate positions. There'll be a need to kind of shift. So we'll have a new title kind of under my belt, promotion type stuff, that new title under the belt. So it happens often.
Okay.
We're probably due for a reorg and a retitling in the next year or two, I guess. Yeah.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Awesome. So I think it's interesting that you are the dean over basically the fine arts and all the broadcasting, all that stuff, and then as well as sports. And I have to say that this is this interview, this conversation, this is like third or fourth try that we've had. You and I met one time before when we originally scheduled this interview, and that might have even been a year ago. I don't even know how long ago that was.
Right, yeah.
And it was my bad because I had conflict and I got there late, and it just wasn't going to work out great for us. But you and I got to talk and got to get to know each other a little bit. And I think what I found interesting from that conversation was that you oversee, or you're the dean of these fine arts as well as the athletics. But those two things, that coupling, is something that was like part of my background as well. Like I did theater, music,
right.
A lot of those things, as well as I was in every sport involved in all of that. And there is somewhat of a kind of like a, what's the word I'm looking, like a sharing, like there's a give and take that you can that are beneficial between those two disciplines. Like
For sure.
If you're doing something in theater, especially like choreography or whatever, like to be athletic it's important to have athletics, and also to be able to know how to work as a team within say an acting troupe or something like that. But then at the same time, those things benefit the other way as well. You work with people and team, and you develop relationships in the arts, and you can carry that over into athletics as well, as you're working with a team and stuff like that. So,
right. When they first talked about having the performing arts come on, the arts in general come to me, that they made those exact connections, and I saw it as well, because it's also like event management. You're going to put on an event in athletics, which happens 1 or 2 times a week. Well, performing arts is the exact same thing, right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be something I'd be directly overseeing, but I understood it enough, and they understood that. As a dean, I got what they were trying to do. Was
that a lot of work for you? So I guess I get that. That was my long introduction to my question too. Was like, did it make sense for you? And was it a huge pivot for you to be able to say yes to that, or did it make sense, and did it, like, was it a natural change for you?
Yeah, I would answer that differently from the start of the question to the end of the question, meaning like how it goes.
Okay.
So one thing that I love about the performing arts side of the arts in general is that they are always evolving. There's always something new happening, just like athletics. There's always something happening. Athletics is a very high-touch group because of what I just said. There's a lot happening. There's seasonal changes. There's, you name it, right? We have 14 sports. It's just a ton of touch. Well, performing arts is also a ton of touch, right? They have the same similar types of touch points. So as much as I understand and get the connection on management styles, which is working great, it also just basically doubled or tripled the touch points. So the workload was something that probably wasn't thought about much. It's more like, hey, this makes sense for Chris because he understands it all. But then they realized, wow, it's a lot. It's a lot of touch, as opposed to if it was more of a social science or something that was a little more less touchy, just more like a robotic, if you will.
Yeah.
Contracts and scheduling, it's a little easier to deal with. The workload itself would be a little easier to manage. So that's where a year ago they actually took off some of the arts because there was such high touch. Now it's just performing arts.
Okay.
So the touch points are a little bit less, but it's a lot of touch. That's why, again, back to the original piece, that typically there's an athletic director who just oversees all these touches for athletics. And then the dean over performing arts, that's a full-time gig too. So we really have 2 into 1 right now.
Yeah.
We'll be right back. You can hear the rest of this conversation in just a moment.
I want to tell you about Minuteman Press in Irvington. I have personally worked with them before, and I find their services to be fantastic. They are your quality printer to go to here in Fremont. Look no further than Minuteman Press in Irvington. You can find them at 44141 Fremont Boulevard in Fremont.
Fremont Bank has been around for 60 years, and they sponsor a lot of stuff. And now, included on the list of things they sponsor, is this podcast. Thank you, Fremont Bank. Saturday, April 27th is Independent Bookstore Day. Fremont has an independent bookstore, Banter Bookshop, on Capitol Avenue. I say Capitol Avenue like everyone knows where that is. Capitol Avenue in downtown Fremont, near the Hub and the Fremont Bank building, and Capitol Avenue. I know we all rely on the maps, but it's in downtown, and you should go.
If you need help navigating the local real estate market, give Jennifer Petroselli a call. With almost 2 decades of experience, this family-owned brokerage is an expert in the local real estate market. With her wide-ranging knowledge of the real estate industry and expert negotiation skills, Jennifer goes above and beyond for her clients. Jennifer helps her clients make smart real estate decisions that benefit them in the long run. So if you're looking for a realtor who knows what they're doing and who genuinely cares about your needs and wants, reach out to Jennifer today and discover why Petrocelli Homes is the right choice for all of your real estate needs.
Every single episode of the Fremont Podcast is now on YouTube. We put it there in case playing it from YouTube is easier for some people. Enjoy. Please consider donating $1 a month on a reoccurring basis to help this podcast that you enjoy. buymeacoffee.com/thefremontpodcast/membership. The Ohlone College Flea Market is happening every second Saturday of the month from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Ohlone's Fremont campus. Can I ask you, what are you hoping to find today?
It's just interesting to see what's out there, and you never know what you'll find.
Treasures.
Hey, Van, if people want to contact you, how do they get in touch?
So our phone number is 510-659-6285, and the email is fleamarket@ohlone.edu. More information can be found at ohlone.edu/flea-market.
Well, let's talk about the athletics, because this is something before we started our conversation here, you gave me a quick run-around tour of the at least the athletic part of the campus.
Got to show it off.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I got to see. I've been here on the campus and done a few interviews before. I've come here because I love parking here and hiking Mission Peak,
yeah.
And so I've been here for that purpose, and I love watching sunsets from the top of the parking garage. So that's pretty cool too. Yeah. But this is the first time I've been in any of the athletic facilities. I've been able to see the pool from the parking garage, and I've seen different events going on, or practices at least going on. And then you just gave me a tour. We walked through the gymnasium. We went down to the fields, the baseball and softball fields, and I peeked in and saw the soccer field as well. So this is cool. It's real. I was telling you when we were walking around that I don't think that people, at least I'll speak for myself, and maybe there are other people in Fremont that feel this way as well. I didn't think of Ohlone College as a place for athletics. I think of it as a place to get a local degree, to take some local classes, right. As an institution, as a campus, I think of it more strictly as an educational entity. But there's not just athletics happening here, but there's some good athletic programs that are going on here. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that right now. We're in the middle of the spring.
Yep.
It's mid-April, and we've got a few. What seasons do we have going on right now, and how are they doing?
Yeah, it's a great segue there, if you will, or lead in. So we'll go from kind of the most known, popular, kind of down to what's coming up in new for us.
Okay.
But baseball has been kind of our staple for many, many years.
Okay.
Our coach right now, Coach Mike Curran, he's been with us for 12 years, I think. And he's done a great job. He's full-time.
Okay.
And he's done a great job at a recruiting motto, an academic rigor motto. He's really done a great job at kind of establishing a culture.
That's great.
And with that establishment, the kids respond, and they do really well, both on and off the field. In fact, the baseball for Ohlone College has been recognized multiple times for academic success, not just athletic success.
That's awesome.
It's really kind of cool. So Coach really makes that a part of his recruiting process. So we're just a few weeks out of finishing the season, and then we're going to go into postseason. And I'm not sure Coach Kern's ever missed a postseason bid.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So sometimes we're hosting all the way through.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're just traveling, but we usually go in almost every time. So he's got a structure.
Didn't they do really well last year? Was it last year?
Last year they did pretty okay. The year before they hosted all the way through to the very last home. Yeah. So he's had quite a run.
That's
and then the year
awesome.
prior we made it to state.
Wow.
As well. So he hasn't gotten that state championship yet, but he's close, and he's always competitive. Some great baseball in the state of California, right?
Wow.
Softball is kind of that same trajectory. Coach Julie Marshall, she's awesome. She's been with us since our longtime coach, who was full-time, Donna Runyon, retired out. In fact, our field right now is named Runyon Field.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. And they're doing well too. They're going to probably make postseason. So they're kind of our two main staples for spring.
Okay.
And then the next group kind of coming in there is our swim program.
Okay.
Both men and women, they do really well.
Okay.
And they're going to make a couple of them are going to make it into our state championships. And then we have a fairly new program, our tennis program. So our men's and women's program run by Adrian. He's done a great job, Gonzalez. And we'll probably have a few of our higher levels go off to states, and they do individual work out there. Over at Ojai, actually. Yeah. It's one of our in Ventura.
You said that the tennis program was new, right?
Yeah.
How new is that?
Well, that's a good question too, because tennis has kind of come and gone.
Okay.
We have great courts, and I think tennis came on in late 70s.
Okay.
And then they went through the 80s, and then our coach retired, and then that tends to go away.
Yeah.
And we brought it back when I first started in 2009.
Okay.
Went for a few years, and it dropped because our coaches fell. So I knew tennis is something I want to keep bringing back. We have the facilities. It's silly not to. It's starting to grow again. So Adrian Gonzalez, he's like, hey, let's do this. Let's do it. So recruiting is going to be your lifeblood. Keep working about recruiting, and then establishing that. So he's done a pretty good job at trying to reestablish. And then our last sport we brought on was just this year. It's badminton.
Nice.
So badminton is sponsored by we call it 3C2A, the California Community College Athletic Association.
Okay.
Basically, it's the NC2A at the community college level for California.
Okay.
We have 114 schools. It's huge.
Wow.
So that's why we have our own state association as opposed to being out to the NJCAA, which is kind of a national.
Okay.
We don't need national because you have so many internal, right?
Yeah.
And so badminton is sponsored by the 3C2A.
Wow.
And badminton's ripe in this area. This East Bay, there's clubs all over the place. It's just something I've been trying to get a foothold in. And a couple of years ago, when Eric Bishop was here, Dr. Bishop, he's like, hey, how are you going to grow athletics? What are we going to do? Because we want enrollment. It really helps with enrollment.
Yeah.
I said, well, badminton. He's like, do it.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So we got a coach, got the curriculum, and then we have a team of 7 right now, and they're going to do well. I think they're fourth or third in the conference, and they're going to have some state appearances. So I think we're going to. It's our inaugural season, and we've already got a lot of wins. So
badminton is a popular sport.
Yeah.
I mean, my neighbors set up a badminton net in the cul-de-sac across the street from my house, and they're out there playing. Badminton. Yeah. And it's a popular sport. You know, it's in certain countries and certain cultures, it's a popular sport.
Absolutely.
So I think it would be a smart move to bring badminton here, especially if you're trying to draw people locally to the college to consider that.
The hardest part every sport has their challenge when it comes to recruiting. And I'll push recruiting. Recruiting is the lifeblood for anything at the college level. Recruiting is key.
Okay.
High schools, you don't actually get to recruit because you just have your own body. Mm-hmm. But now they have to step it up and find the students, right? Badminton has one biggest struggle for recruiting, that there's no badminton at the 4-year level, period. The next level for badminton out of community colleges is the Olympics. That's the next tier.
Gotcha.
So unlike, say, football or basketball or baseball or softball, some of the carrots that we have out there is that, hey, we can get you into the next level. Yeah. Like we can find some scholarship money. You can go from what you thought might be low level to high level. Give us 2 solid years, maybe 3 years, depending on how your ed plan goes, and you're going to go on. And we have example after example of that exact person. So we have, like, baseball's classic. Well, they'll come in, they'll redshirt. Well, they won't play the first year. They'll get academic rigor. They're going to practice, but not play. Year 2, year 3, they're finishing, and they're getting a D1 scholarship. That was never on the table 3 years ago, ever.
Right.
Now they're actually getting it. So now they're getting paid to go continue their education and play. So those are great examples. That doesn't exist in badminton. So now for badminton, his strategy's got to be something like academic transfer.
Okay.
Like we can get you to UC somewhere. Get your education here first. Enjoy the game. Really use the advantages of athletics.
Okay.
Team. Get the things that really are solid with athletics, and then move on to the 4-year school.
I see. Wow. So that's those are the sports for the spring right now, and then in the fall, or I guess starting in the middle of summer, right? You're gonna have more sports, a whole slew of sports in the summer, right?
Yeah. So we have 14 total, and then in the summer we kind of that's when we have the calendar change, and everybody starts in July, because that's when we have our official, we call it CAR, but countable athletic related contact.
Okay.
That all starts July, kind of a calendar flip.
Okay.
So we really start to gear up with men's and women's soccer.
Okay.
We have a great field for that, which is fantastic. Volleyball indoors, we have a great program there. It's been going on for a long, long time.
I'm gonna have to come over and watch volleyball.
Yeah, it's
you
really
and I found it.
competitive.
I mean, we connected over volleyball
Yes.
as well, because I played Division II in college.
Right.
It was actually only 1 year because of various reasons, but then I played in like pickup tournaments and stuff like that afterwards. But I love volleyball.
Yeah,
and,
that's my sport. That's my sport.
If they got a great program here, I'd love to come watch.
Yeah, it's really good. In fact, one of our hopes is that volleyball for men actually exists in the Southern California area. It doesn't actually exist in the north.
Interesting.
It is. So there's been a movement by quite a few schools locally to see if we can start to get that back, because it is a growing sport. Actually,
That's
if you look at
cool.
the numbers, it's huge.
Makes me think my son is 11, and he's asking me, because he's in flag football right now, and he's interested in basketball, but he started asking me recently about volleyball. He's like, do you think I do well in volleyball? I said, well, I play volleyball. You're kind of built the way I'm built, and I think you have a lot of the same intuition that I do. And I said, I think that it's something that you could do really well at. And so he's been curious. Maybe by the time he gets to college, there'll be a really good, healthy program in the area.
I'm going to start
that he can be
recruiting your
involved.
son on that.
There you go. There you go.
I think the biggest challenge though for us is that unlike a lot of high schools, we don't have 2 gyms. Right. So we have a primary or on our only gymnasium, the Epler Gymnasium. And so having 4 athletic programs is just a scheduling nightmare, right? So one of our hopes within the next measure, bond movement, is that we're going to have an opportunity to put together an event center, kind of more on the frontage property. And then that would create kind of a 2 gym model. We could keep the gym here. Yeah, we could events down there, practices up here, and it can really start to expand our programs, volleyball being one of the primary one for indoor.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, and you said you have both the men's and women's currently, right? Or no, just the women's?
Just the women's, just women's. Okay. And then water polo. So we have a full aquatics program. We don't have any diving. We took those out, but we have men's and women's water polo. And then for fall, that's it. Then you go into kind of the winter, but they're still fall sports, is basketball. Really strong programs, both men and women. Men really so. Women, I think that across the female athletics in general, it's been a difficult recruiting since COVID. That's really an identified timeline that says we lost the recruiting piece of it. Really has become a struggle. So there's a lot of programs that are helping our coaches kind of re-recruit our female side. So, I think all of our female sports have been struggling. And now this year alone, we've seen some change. So our softball start to build up. Having badminton has been helpful. So there's other programs that are starting to get back into it. Volleyball kind of rebuilt as well. So
I want to revisit a conversation you and I already had, and I think it's a good one. I really loved what I heard from you. But you were talking about a game that just took place, women's softball game that just took place. The score was 1-0.
Right.
And you said it was just a really good game. It was an exciting game, very defensive game.
Yeah.
So the question that I asked you when we were walking around was, I think that there's certain things that people enjoy about professional sports. The way I was thinking about it when we were talking was professional sports kind of things. It seems to be the thing that a lot of kids, younger athletes might dream about. Like, I wish I could be that big, do that thing, be that good. And like if I'm watching the NBA, and I'm going to use that simply because I don't really watch any other college sports except for occasionally college basketball, which we just went through March Madness and all of that. But if I'm watching the NBA, I just think, man, they're just so good, and I can't imagine myself being out there, but I could dream about it.
Right.
But I watch college basketball sometimes. I'm like, I could imagine myself being there because it's a little bit more scrappy. It's not as clean. It's not as polished. There's still some work to be done. And then you go back all the way down to, like, say, high school sports,
right?
And you're like, depending on the high school, like if you go down to Texas and Friday Night Lights, you might have some amazing football,
right?
But you come some sports, even in the locally, and you're just like, football on a high school level may not be all that great to watch. It's just a lot of fun for a community to come out and see it and everything. So my question is that when you come out to Ohlone sports, like, I think sometimes, and I was asking you specifically about, like, when I go to a professional baseball game, because say the pitching is so good, or the just the natural flow of the game is just so predictable. Sometimes you just find yourself just sitting in the stands waiting, 20 minutes before someone gets a good hit or a good play, and you're like, oh, I was there, I saw that. And then you go get your hot dog and your other stuff, and you come back and wait for the next big play that happens. Like, is that the kind of experience when you come to see like an Ohlone College softball game or a baseball game, or is this level of college sports something that's just really enjoyable? And is do you find that to be something that people would enjoy from our community coming out and being a part of, because it actually is a really good environment and place to watch? That's
a really good question. I'm glad you asked it, because it is a part of what I try and create or help create is a product, right? And so I want to make sure that the experience that the spectators have and the students and the coaches all are as high of a level as we can, right? So even coming in and going through the ticket booth, if you will, and finding your seat, and if there is some food available, where's the restrooms, and just the experience, I want to make sure that our fans, which are mostly parents, which is fantastic, or even just local people, like, hey, there's a softball game, I'm going to go check it out. They have and leave with a good experience. The talent that we see ebbs and flows, as you would imagine, right? Some years we're going to have just some amazing pitching, like, wow, where'd these people come from? Wow. And then some years, like, hopefully we can throw it over the plate, right? But that's just the dynamics of community college athletics in general. Again, the onus of the talent piece comes on the coaching ability, and more importantly, the coaching recruiting. If you can recruit the talented, then the coaching part doesn't have to be as harsh. Right. So for the example of softball, which is, we talked about it because it's such a fun game, is that you see a score of 1-0, you're like, what was that like? What was that? But when I was down there, it is just exciting because you have this level, you don't see a lot of dominant pitchers. So you're not seeing swing and misses all the time. You're seeing the ball put in play. And because you don't have the most elite defensive players, you never know what's going to happen. There's always action. There's always a little bit of challenge. There's always going to be, did they get the right jump on it, or did they put their glove out right? And so the minute the ball's hit, which is often, there's excitement.
That's awesome.
From the minute that out is put out, like, wow, that was close. So there's no bored times, really. So it's a very exciting game. And baseball the same way. There's, you don't have a dominant pitcher typically, and if you do, they're going to come out at some point, and the new pitcher comes in, as a relief, and then there's action. So there's a lot of action, I think, with all these types of sports, and those are the elite ones really at this level, right? Basketball, similar. They're a lot of good action, some really talented plays, but you're going to see a lot of learning as well, right? You get to see that coach interaction, like, okay, this is what we talked about. Why didn't we do this? Here's plan A, and you kind of went to X. What happened, right? So you see that learning happening all the time, right?
I think what I'm envisioning, and I don't know if you would say the same, but I'm just, as you're talking, I'm thinking about this. Like, I have gone to some really high level, like, say basketball. I've gone to some really high level high school basketball games where even as high school coaches, they're recruiting, and you're going there and you're like, this is like you're seeing, maybe they shouldn't be recruiting, but I know that student does not live in this community, and they came out, and so you go to some of these games and you're like, man, these are not professional, they're not even college, they're high school, but they're really good. I just love the game. I feel like what I'm hearing from you is I guess in some sense, if you go to a high school game, you're taking a gamble. It might be good, it might not be good, depending on, even if the one team that's playing is really good and the other team's not good at all. It's just like a horrible game to watch because you're just like, you feel bad, or you're just like, it's a dominant. But it sounds to me like the type of sports, the type of games that are being played here are ones that you can just like, it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a fun game to watch. It's going to be a good environment, a lot of energy and that sort of thing.
I think one of the things I talk to our incoming students a lot about, especially when they're just randomly inquiring about, hey, I want to join the basketball team. I say, okay, were you on the varsity team in high school? And if so, were you on the varsity team 3 or 4 years? That's the level we need here. So, like, I didn't play basketball in high school. Well, then most likely you're not going to make the team, right? Because there's tryouts, if you will. There's through classes, but we have an evaluation period, and then they're probably not going to make the team because the expectation at at the college level, we're 2 years of the 4-year experience, but we're still college level. Mm-hmm. It's beyond the varsity level. Yeah. It's much, much more so. So we'll look at like baseball, where you can look at the roster of the baseball team. Most of them on that roster who are starting right now were the elite on their team at the high school level. And if you look at the conference from that, maybe only 3 or 4 from that conference, that's how high level we are at this phase. Now, if we were to completely scrap it or bring on a brand new sport and we need to just field players, it's going to be a different feel. Okay. Like they're going to be new. We have some very new tennis players or those who have never really competed. It's fine. Let's just get the bodies. Let's get the recruiting up, and you start to build from there, right? That's great. But the expectation is that we're going to get to the baseball, softball level at some point, to the basketball level at some point. We want to try and facilitate and shepherd those newer programs to get to that level. That's the expectation. We want to make sure we have high level. Always thinking about the academic side of the house, though, right? Because it's a college is to try and transfer with a degree. Yeah. So, if we have a student come in here, play 2 years, and leave with 20 units, we've missed the boat. Like, what are we doing? So, academics is always our founding father, if you will, when it comes to this.
That's great. Yeah. I love that. Let's talk about, I want to get like maybe a little bit of a background. Like what did you do before you got here? Are you from the Bay Area? And like what brought you to Ohlone? And then we'll talk about your experience here over the last 23 years.
Yeah, sure. Love to. So I was born in Santa Clara.
Okay.
That was my roots. Grew up in San Jose area, the Willow Glen area, until I was about 9.
Wow.
Yep. And then my folks, we all moved up to the Placerville area, Camino specifically. Okay. Which is Apple Hill as you're going up to Lake Tahoe.
Love that. Yeah.
So I was all the way through high school, El Dorado High School Cougars, shout out Cougars. And then after high school, had some options to go to Northridge or Long Beach, or I was big into volleyball, men's volleyball, and I was big into physical therapy. Okay. Right? So that whole kind of genre. So Long Beach, I was going to go play, D1 level volleyball, right. And I was going to, be like a doctor in physical therapy, and I got there and I couldn't do either one of them, right? Like,
really?
No, I was not good enough. Oh, my mind as out of high school, like, oof, reality check.
Yeah.
So I stayed active, of course, but volleyball was done at that point.
Okay.
And then physical therapy had a much more stringent science and medical background, and then somebody got me interested in athletic training. So it was really the physical therapist for the athlete, and that was really wanted to be. The athletic healthcare was kind of what I was thinking anyway. Didn't even know it was a job. So I pivoted from health sciences to athletic training over at Long Beach, and just found my niche. That was great.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. Great internship, great program, top quality program for sure. Okay. During that time, got certified as a certified athletic trainer, able to work, and then I wanted to get my master's. So I went to Illinois with my fiance at the time, right?
Okay.
Let's just throw our name out there. Where can we pick up a master's program? Looking at accredited programs for athletic training. So Illinois State, the Redbirds.
Wow.
Shout out Redbirds. Picked me up. So we went out there for a couple years, got my master's degree, asked my wife to marry me, and we got married in 99.
Wow.
Stayed there for a couple years. And then...
Were you doing some athletic training there?
Yeah, so I was working through a physical therapy clinic. That's kind of a classic place for athletic trainers to be. So we would be aides or just technicians that would kind of help with the PT aspect. Trying to find a full-time gig out there. But after I graduated, got my master's degree, my wife, she's like, okay, it's really cold. So... the joke is that she was going back to the West Coast. I could come with her.
That's right.
But either way, she's going. So I pushed real hard for about a year to find something on the West Coast again, back in California. Family was here, and we were just more comfortable over here. And so Ohlone had a great position for athletic trainer faculty.
Had you heard of Ohlone, or did you know of Ohlone before?
No, I didn't even know how to say it right. So I did some research on it. Thought it was pretty interesting. Liked the Fremont area from my childhood down here earlier. I knew that Great America used to be down not too far away. So all these little like touch points. I'm like, cool. So I threw my name in the hat. I got a couple interviews during that summer of 2001. And then they offered it to me. So
great.
We picked up and left. It was one of those things where I heard kind of late in the season, and I went to the next day, went to my employer and said, hey, I'm quitting. So we got the house ready because we had bought a house just a year prior.
Wow.
And then so I came out early to get myself ready. My wife stayed there to get the house on the market.
Wow.
And so she stayed. We were separate for a couple months.
Okay.
And then November,
she's the one that threatened to leave you and you to go with her, and then you're the one that actually like jumped the gun. You're like, since you brought that up.
It was kind of a flip on her.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so it was fun for that. And then I think it was Thanksgiving is when we drove out and came back together. So
nice.
Yeah, it was cool, and I've been here ever since.
Okay. And you live here in Fremont?
Yeah. So we landed in Fremont, rented for a few different places, and then 2007-8 we bought.
Like, could you imagine yourself being where you are, doing what you're doing right now, or is that something that was kind of like in I don't know where things are going to end up one day with my life, or did you have like your heart set on being a trainer the rest of your life, or what was do you think about like the journey that you've been on and where you've ended up now?
Right. I think the hindsight's always like never expected this.
Sure.
Like I didn't come into this looking to do this. But one of my philosophies in life is just to kind of let the doors open when they open, and be open to the idea of maybe, we'll call it promotion or just next level type stuff. So when in the 2006-07, when they kind of approached me, like, wow, this might be something to consider. And it was kind of a soft landing, like, hey, it's interim. Let's have you get your feet wet in it. So I felt more comfortable to try that. But that is a big jump. You go from athletic trainer, faculty, or teaching, you're doing your craft, and then now you're managing. So I hadn't entertained that actually, because I was just living the life.
Just really enjoyed what you were doing.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's like, So then once my wife and I thought about like, well, let's give it a shot. And then once I was in it, it was sort of like, okay, I'm in it. Let's just go with it. So, and then what I liked about it, I think what I like about higher education in general is that you work in 16-week increments, and then you have a summer schedule, and you have a fall, and then a spring. So it's always changing. So for those who become I say bored or stale in it, then they probably need to retire, because there really isn't any reason why you should be stale. There's always something coming up, and it's always exciting, right?
Like for a teacher who has been in a classroom for a long time teaching the same thing, I think one of the unknown elements, or one of the factors that makes it new each year, is the fact that you have different students. Like you have new people coming in with new ideas, new abilities, and that sort of thing, and you've got to kind of acclimate to how that works best for that group and those people. And that's in general.
That is so much like an athletic team too, right? Because you're gonna have a new dynamic. New faces, new attitudes, new approaches. And what I've loved over the 15 years or so I've been doing the administration side, on the athletic side, is that I see my coaches evolve, because how they used to coach 15 years ago isn't working as well. So they have to adjust. They get to learn new strategies, how to engage, how to describe, how to demonstrate, whatever it may be, and they're learning as well. So it's fun to see those instructors at their athletics, or even in the classroom, figure out better strategies in order to deliver that content, and see those students click, like, they got it. Like that's when I was teaching, that was the ultimate. Like he got it. They got it. She got it. Perfect. So I've done my job.
One of the things that you just said actually made me think about something which I actually find really cool about Ohlone. It sounds to me that there's a stability and a longevity that exists at Ohlone College as a whole, which is really, really cool. Is that what your experience is like within your divisions in which you're overseeing and that you're working in?
Right.
It just seems to be like a solid, stable in place for everyone who's in the teaching, the teaching and administrative part of the college.
That's how I feel.
Okay.
I don't have experience at other colleges. I can kind of get some dialogue that's naturally from other schools, but I've always felt that Ohlone has something that's unique. And it really does have a family feel to it. Does that change over time? Has it changed over time? Sure. It does. It does. So that's just kind of a natural phenomenon, if you will. But no, I think you're right. I think some of the longer tenured individuals here, like myself, would all agree that there's just something special about Ohlone.
That's great.
It's really kind of neat.
Which I think is even more admirable for Ohlone, because I would say most of the community colleges, and I don't have statistics on this, I think it makes sense. Most community colleges in our country don't live in a place where there's such a high cost of living.
Right.
There's such a challenge when it comes to like being sustainable and that sort of thing. So a lot of in at least other places that I've lived, like teachers and administration and community college were making really good salaries for where they are and where they are living that, you know, seem to make sense. And I don't know what the salaries are here, but I know that education across the board, the teachers and the administrators that I know in Fremont, it's just, you know, it's not an easy life to stick with it, but to have such a longevity that is visible here at Ohlone, that just speaks well to the college, I think.
I think it's a good point. And one of the things that's probably that's changed over time, I think, would be those who worked here, lived here. That was back in the day, the OG, right?
Right.
And even I think back in the early 20-aughts, that was what we all did. Most of us lived in the area. But if you take a snapshot now, I think it's probably opposite. Most of us don't live in the area because of cost of living. Absolutely. Yeah. So to be a full-time instructor, you're probably living somewhere you have to drive. The commute's not, you know, you're driving by 3 community colleges to come here. But that's now saying something that they're okay with coming from San Francisco or outside the area to come to Ohlone because it is such a great working environment.
That's awesome.
So it says something for that.
So I know that parents are not supposed to have favorite children. And I'm assuming that probably transfers over. Deans are not supposed to have favorite sports or athletics, you know, but like if you... just not as a dean, but just as a resident of Fremont. Like if you hear a particular team on campus is having a game, like which ones do you like find yourself being drawn to go? And I like I know that I'm a dean and I probably should make an appearance here or there or whatever, but then you're just like, no, I really want to go to this game. Like I want to, like what are the games? What are the games that you kind of put on your own personal schedule sometimes?
That's a good question. I think you got to look at, you know, you get all the hats off, right? And I love all my children. I know I coached baseball for a long time with youth baseball, you know, little league, all that stuff, right? So, and my son as well, he's 17, going to be 18. So I've always had.
Are you recruiting him?
So I'll get to that. So I think baseball's been in my blood for a long time. I'm a big Giants fan. You know, we go to games all the time. So I just have an affinity to baseball, which also lends to softball. You know, they're very similar. I find nuances in that game that's different than baseball, but it's very similar. So I enjoy watching that. I'm a volleyball guy. So when it comes to volleyball, I'm always bragging about my volleyball prowess. And as I get older, my prowess was way better. Right? You know, it's just how it works. So our volleyball
That's exactly right.
Our volleyball coach and I, you know, we've hit it off even before this. So I really enjoy watching that game from a like a logistics or just an X's and O's concept. And then when COVID hit, my son transitioned from baseball to tennis, actually.
Oh, okay.
So he picked up the tennis racket, and it's been really fun to watch his growth exponentially. So he's been recruited to come to Ohlone to play tennis. So I tend to get out there and watch some good tennis as well. Again, that program's growing. He'll be able to contribute to that program. If I'm going to watch just a really competitive game, I'm going to go down to baseball probably.
Okay.
Where I'm going to go.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. How's the water polo do? I was talking to I ran into somebody. I wish I could remember what it was, but I ran into somebody and they were talking to me about water polo. And it wasn't here. It was like a completely different place. That they were just water polo players.
It's not as popular up here in the in the north, but it's pretty strong. West Valley's got a really strong program. Lots of schools around this area have a lot of strong programs. So we're pretty strong.
Does it have is it a fun game to watch out here?
Yeah, for sure. It's always moving. It's it's almost like hockey and soccer kind of all wrapped into one. Throwing the ball around and trying to get some team play. So it's a lot of work, a lot of strategy. Yeah, it's a fun game to watch. That's for sure.
Another question I wanted to ask you, as you were starting the tour with me, there was this kind of like this room or this space at the end of the stairwell that has names and pictures of athletes and stuff like that. Tell me what that is again. Like it seems like a place of recognition for different people.
Yeah, I think a lot of schools they use it for recruiting in some cases, but they have a Hall of Fame or a Wall of Fame or a recognition location. It might be trophies or whatever, right? But early on in my management tenure, there's this stairwell that goes from the third floor to the second floor. It has this blank. It was like a canvas. When I saw it, I'm like, okay, something needs to go there. We should do something. Yeah. So there was a basketball coach of ours who had the idea of like, hey, why don't we put up like student athletes of the year, because we have this running list back in the 60s of just student athletes of the year. And it's been enshrined in a data file, nowhere else. So we brought out a designer to take a look at the wall and see what they wanted to do as far as creating some sort of recognition wall. And so we created 4 distinct areas. One is kind of a thank you for high-level sponsors or donors, that kind of thing. So then we have in the middle our female athlete of the year and our male athlete of the year. And that happens every year in the end of spring. We do a poll to all the coaches on nominating a student that would fit the criteria of being a renegade, right? And then all the coaches and a bunch of others kind of vote on these nominations, and then they're awarded this. That is a recognition that goes on the wall. They also get $500 for transferring, so they can take that to the next level and have something that's kind of nice, buy a book or two, right? And then the last thing on that wall is kind of in recognition of, some of them have passed away, some are just people who have really helped the school, or the program. Our bus driver was up there for a long time. So it's just another place to recognize, kind of a hall of fame, if you will. Yeah, it's great. We have a picture montage that changes from year to year.
That's awesome.
So it's really an awe moment when you walk in, like I brought you in, you turn that corner, you're like, oh wow, that's cool.
That's very cool. So do you have any athletes that have come through the program here that like people would know about, like generally? Like, do you have anybody that you're like, yeah, they played here and now they're playing, or they had played major league, or they played professional sports?
We have a few that are on there. Gary Plummer, I don't think he's on the wall, but Gary Plummer, he came through Ohlone back in the late or mid 70s. And there's probably quite a few names on there that made it far in their sport, but just never really hit that major league. Soccer. There's a lot of just low-level soccer leagues that are out there. But one thing I do get quite a bit from is they may email me just from an 80s team and say, hey, I played there and I was on the wall. Love to see what you guys are doing. Come see the camp. Come on out. So I get a lot of this feedback of like, hey, I really enjoyed my time at Ohlone. Is Coach so-and-so still there? Or what happened to Coach so-and-so? Like, oh, that's awesome. So we just kind of reach out and kind of bond with those people. But I think what I'm looking forward to is that they have a great experience here. Lots of times which is, fortunate and unfortunate, I'll hear from a student who transferred and comes back like, my Ohlone time was way better than my 4-year experience.
That's great.
I'm like, that's good. Because I want to make sure that we're setting them up at least to have an experience that's memorable and they can come back and recognize that. Right?
Yeah. Well, I could say that is true for me. Like the year that I played Division II volleyball in Wisconsin, it was just it was a 1-year opportunity, but that experience, and there was more to that experience than just playing volleyball, but the experience that I had playing volleyball, and then I was able to take that with me and even play in local tournaments. And I actually later ended up refereeing for, I don't think 5 or 6 years, and then ended up coaching for a while.
Right.
And I love that, But I look back and I'm like, where did you develop that love and that kind of like that set that trajectory in that direction? Right. It was that 1 year I played Division II volleyball. I don't want to take your time too much longer, but I'm just curious, like when it comes to the fine arts program or the performing arts, like what kind of things might the community expect or be able to be involved with or come and participate in? And I'm specifically thinking of like performances and stuff like that. What are some of the things that the community might find valuable about what happens here in the performing arts area?
So again, the connection between the performing arts and athletics is very similar that way, because we really are a front face. We're a community involved spectator type of thing. We welcome our community to come and cheer or appreciate what we have as a product, right? So our theater is it's recognized, it's award winning, and they have fall productions, they have spring productions, and they have Summerfest, which is kind of a fun thing just to kind of get out. So there's always going to be an opportunity to watch a theater production. We have a theater inside, which has got a great house. We also have an amphitheater on the outside, so we tend to do productions on both sides. So there's some sort of front facing and spectator opportunity, right? Our music department does very similar stuff. They'll have some sort of concerts that we put out there as well. So there's always something kind of going on that can be out there for our community, right?
Yeah.
Not to mention athletics as well.
Yeah.
And then what's been fun is that our broadcasting side of the house is really looking to partner with athletics. And so we've been broadcasting
that's cool.
our product, our baseball and softball games. And we've been getting some really amazing feedback.
Wow.
And as I'm watching it, like from my desk, this is high level stuff.
That's awesome.
We're talking 4 cameras with PA, and you have color behind it, and it's really, really quite nice. Yeah. So I challenge any community college to be better than what we have right now, because our broadcasting program. So it's been fun to see that product and that opportunity for community that can't come here, or more importantly, if we have student athlete parents and their families are not in the area, they can't watch. Well, this is a way to do that.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, Chris, thanks for joining me, man. This has been great.
Yeah, we finally got together.
Yeah,
let's do it again.
Yeah, we scheduled this several times, and you or I both had to withdraw because of conflicts in schedule, but this worked out really, really well.
Yeah.
And I think the timing is good. I think this is a good timing. So thanks for making this happen, and I would love to be able to follow up again.
Yeah.
I've been already thinking about talking with people that I've interviewed a year and a half ago, and say I want to follow up and see where you're at, what you're doing and stuff. So we can, if there's anything coming up that I think that you feel would be would be something that a community would appreciate and benefit from, I'd love to pop in here. We can put together a bonus episode and say, hey, this is a follow-up, and, the community needs to know about this. So
love it. And, the shameless plug is that, come visit the college. There's some great activities here. I mean, just simply ohloneathletics.com. You get you right to the schedules. You can see what's going on. So we're going to have some postseason play, some playoffs for baseball, softball coming up.
Nice.
So, check the website.
That's great. We'll do that. Well, thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see you again. Talk to you again. Yeah.
Awesome.
This episode was hosted and produced by Ricky B. I'm Gary Williams. Andrew Cavett is the editor. Scheduling and pre-interviews by Sarah S. Be sure to subscribe wherever it is that you listen so you don't miss an episode. You can find everything we make, the podcast, and all of our social media links at thefremontpodcast.com. Join us next week on the Fremont Podcast.
After the sacrifice fly to the left by Leiterman, drove in a run. He's got someone at third. This one hit very high, maybe the highest pop I've ever seen here, and that is going to go finally downward. Eventually gravity has to kick in. So it did. I'm certainly hopeful that no one on the walking path was. I hope that sound was asphalt. Let's put it that way.
This is a Muggins Media podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Fremont Podcast. If you are an individual or a business that would like to be a sponsor partner on the podcast, please reach out at thefremontpodcast@gmail.com, or you can go to our website, thefremontpodcast.com, and you can reach out to us through our contact form. Thank you for listening, thank you for sharing, and thank you for your support.